to the podcast that must not be named. I am Melissa.
I am Luke.
And we have made it to the end of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We are going to be doing our recap of the final 3 chapters, the Chamber of Secrets, the Heir of Slytherin, and Dobby's Reward. So Luke, what just happened?
After leaving Aragog's forest lair, the second years found out the standard end-of-year exams would not occur, regardless of usefulness. 3 days before exams, the mandrakes were finally ready to save petrified students. After finding their way to the entrance of the Chamber of Secrets, thanks to Hermione, we enter the Chamber of Secrets. Harry saves the girl, kills the snakeman, and then defeats the memory of Tom Riddle. Harry wins the House Cup and frees Dobby the House Elf.
As always, after every section of the book, every 5 chapters, typically, this is only 3, because we finished the book.
There's no more chapters.
We're out of chapters.
Aw.
We are joined by our first-time reader, Riley. Welcome back.
Hey guys, thanks for bringing me back again.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
We're very excited
Always.
for you to be here. We always like your thoughts.
I like to hear that.
So we went through chapters 16, 17, 18. We go all the way from after Aragog, all the way through Dobby being freed and Harry getting 100,000 points to Gryffindor.
We're not talking about that.
We actually haven't talked about that in a while.
I'm
which
not
is
talking about
good.
that. I need to just let that go.
So let's dig right in. We hear from Aragog that it's potentially Moaning Myrtle that was the one that was killed by the monster in the chamber.
Right.
So what did you think about them not going directly to Myrtle and talking about?
I don't know. It seems like, well, I don't know exactly what they talked about the whole time they're in the bathroom beforehand, but it does seem kind of like Myrtle could have probably inferred what was going on, what they were looking for, and maybe given them,
Hey, I can tell you're working on this. I might have some insider information. Pick me.
Yeah, but I don't know. Myrtle and them not aggressively just going towards that right away. She does seem kind of like a trickster too, so I'm sure she's probably having a little bit of fun watching them around, and nobody's allowed to go into that bathroom, so maybe she wants to keep them around. You never know.
She literally has no skin in the game. I mean,
yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
she has no skin.
Right, well,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, there's the pun, but she doesn't have to care,
Yeah.
Nope.
right? I mean, what's it matter to her if someone else dies? She died. Be cool if someone else could join her if she even gets to that point.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Maybe that's what she's looking for.
So they finally find a way to sneak off to Myrtle, but get caught by McGonagall, and they run off to Hermione. And
Hospital wing.
yeah, any thoughts about?
Another loose end that just they happened to grab the piece of paper in her hand at this point about it being a basilisk. I don't know. I think it's convenient that this happens this way. There's kind of a lot of things that are in this section happening. Things are just kind of falling into
Like
place.
what?
I don't know. Them just finding out that it was Myrtle who was possibly killed, or just finding the piece of paper that says it was a basilisk fang, and the fact that a powerful wizard couldn't have already assumed that it was a basilisk with all of the things happening. I don't know. It seems like that. If there's books that say basilisks petrify people, when
You think somebody would have figured that
somebody
out?
would have figured it out.
Okay.
I agree.
But I don't know. It seems so. A lot of this book seemed kind of thrown together, and this, we're kind of in 16 territory, and at this
Yes.
point, it was still okay. Things are coming together, but I'm not really happy about the way that they're coming together. It's just kind of oh, this is the answer that I'm going to give, and it's just kind of
I
throwing.
need a finish.
Yeah, it kind of is how it seemed, but going on later in this section, I think things got a little bit better.
Like
for
when?
me. I don't know. Well, I do know because it's my thoughts, but.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you know your thoughts.
Man.
Once we get into chapter 17 and once we really get into the Chamber of Secrets, things start to make a little bit more sense when Tom unveils his whole plan and
So
everything that
kind
he's
of-
been doing to Harry.
See if I can recap. The stuff that happens in 16 to get them to the chamber, the not asking Myrtle and, maybe going to the teacher's lounge and Gilderoy Lockhart, all of that sort of felt more convenient than actually getting in there.
Right. Once they were in there, it seemed, well, they didn't really have a choice. They were just being heroes walking into danger. At least that's what Harry was doing. And also, we kind of skipped over the teacher's lounge, which was a funny point where Snape kind of like throws Lockhart into the job, really makes him shine on, I think that was points for Snape for me because we didn't really see a lot of Snape. Well, this book, besides like the dueling club.
Right.
And he's the one that gets them after they crash the car in
Yeah.
the Weeping Willow.
So
Right.
we see him being the bad guy a little bit, but it's obviously played off to this bigger power more.
Mhm.
So I don't know. We see kind of a more positive light in Snape, which
Mostly because all his negative is directed to Gilderoy Lockhart.
yeah, exactly. And
Which is nice.
It's not hard to. I think maybe that's the perspective because we're coming from Harry's perspective. The fact that Snape doesn't seem so bad is because they kind of share the same feelings about Lockhart, which makes sense.
You almost root for him at some points.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
good job, Snape.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get down into the chamber.
Sure. I don't know. I loved the chamber. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I love the chamber.
The chamber of secrets.
Yeah. No, I definitely liked the whole scene.
I have questions. I think the entrance is questionable, but
The two snakes.
more like 1,000 years.
The
and
plumbing
we've already talked
situation.
about this.
The plumber of Slytherin.
There was no indoor plumbing 1,000 years ago
Yeah.
when Slytherin had his pet snake in the basement or something. So why is the entrance in a bathroom, which didn't exist 1,000? And we've
this is
talked about it.
Something
And
that they talk about on Pottermore
Yes.
as well. That there was a gaunt at some point, which that
is it on
we'll,
Pottermore?
we'll
And
get it. We'll get into that.
We
some
have
other time.
talked about it. We talked about it
Yeah.
in the chapter 16 stuff. But
Okay.
that's like my biggest issue with it is that the entrance is questionable.
But I like. So it is kind of questionable. Like it doesn't really make sense. But I like that it's not so. Even though it's the structure of the book, like it's very comparable to one. It's not like, oh, we're going through trials. Like I don't know what you guys call
The obstacle course.
the obstacle
Yes.
course. Like it's okay. We found the entrance. We have to do a couple things. The only things that really like are stopping us are
is
kind
the
of
entrance to it.
of Lockhart and then the entrance itself. But there's no like you just kind of get to it.
There's no obvious task once you get there
Yeah.
either, which is really scary.
Yeah,
almost.
and
it's more real.
It's
I
more
think.
points for Ron for
Yeah.
him continuing to say, just Harry, say something in parcel tongue.
Right.
Like Harry would probably not have thought of that because
I think in general, Ron drives that chapter 16.
oh yeah, definitely. When Hermione's gone, Harry almost seems like he's at a loss for like what to do at points, but Ron's continually pushing Harry towards. And one of my big notes is that we haven't really seen that in Ron, but so like people could say, or maybe you could think that he doesn't really have those brave qualities. Maybe he's not really running towards danger all the time, but we see that once his family is involved, he does. Once Ginny's the target,
Right.
he's going out, he's doing everything that he can. All of his brothers and sisters and his parents are, crying in McGonagall's office, we find out later, and they're all his brothers and sisters are in the common room doing nothing. Percy locked himself into his room after he'd been trying to find everything throughout this whole year. But Ron and Harry just go off and try to find it. So I think that's points for Ron. Definitely, we see that he cares about the people around him, and that maybe is his driving factor.
Okay.
So I don't mean to jump around a little bit, but I thought of two other real quick thoughts. Back in the teacher's lounge scene, why do you think Harry and Ron didn't just jump out? Like they were clearly where they shouldn't have been, but like they should have just jumped out because they were trying to tell the teachers like, hey, we know something. Why did they just jump out and say, hey, we're here, let's get this to the people that need to hear it? Like either of you on this one. This is something I just thought of. Like why not?
I don't know.
I
my
think-
brain is not.
I think
functioning.
it's probably more of they weren't sure in themselves about what they need. Like they believed it, but they weren't sure that other people were going to believe it. So they may have had to just take the risk and go and do it themselves. Because if they would have gone into the teacher's lounge and said, this is what we think's happening, what do you guys think? They could have just been wrong, or the teachers could have believed that they were wrong, or pointed out another thing, and they would have just sent them back to the common room and maybe put extra eyes on that door to make sure they don't come out again.
Well, and like Harry and Ron overheard them saying that Gilderoy Lockhart was going to go fight it.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as they don't like the guy, like he's a grown up, right?
Yeah.
Hey, the grown up we're going to go to him. So they did go get help. They got the wrong help.
I just think like they had pretty much figured out where the
Right.
entrance is. They could have just popped out of the wardrobe and be like, hey, we've got this really good idea. Sorry, we're intruding. We've got this really good idea. You know the one ghost that we have in the school that was a straight up victim from the Chambers monster? We should go talk to her. Like, as a group, let's go up there and talk to her. Don't ask us how we know who she is. Well, we met her at the death day party. That'd be a completely reasonable way to say that they know her.
And
Hermione told us.
And we know
Hermione's been talking.
Harry can improv pretty well from...
That's right. And he just did it.
And
Yeah,
they
exactly.
have the pipes, the basilisk paper with them at that point. I just say something. Like, you're there to say something.
I think
do
at that point it was such a shock that it
and
was Sister.
they're so shocked. Right. And that's what it is. Ron basically collapses because it's Ginny.
But yeah, they should have said something then.
My next thought real quick before we go deeper into the Chamber of Secrets. Hermione being taken out of this whole part is such a, like, the author decides, well, she's kind of been overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she knows
Needs a break.
like everything. We have to let these two do it on their own, which I like. It's just kind of funny that JK decides to, I can't just keep using Hermione because it's too easy when she's involved,
Well,
really.
Here's my thought. Hermione got attacked around right after Easter break.
Yeah, I was going to say like March,
Roughly?
April.
It was after Easter because they had the Easter break and they picked their thing. Hermione got attacked because JK needed it to last to the end of the school year, and Hermione already
Yeah,
knew,
she would've
so they
figured it
needed to
out.
take her out of the picture,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
extended a little more.
Yeah,
It
I
sounds
think that's
terrible.
funny.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's go into the chamber.
So, first impression, Tom Riddle's a creep. Second impression, Tom Riddle is awesome.
Which is funny because I think most people would have the reverse.
Yeah.
That's okay. Explain.
So, at first, we see Harry in hero mode, like trying to save Ginny, and then all of a sudden, Tom Riddle shows up. Oh, and by the way, the chamber is really well described. Like, I think
Yes.
it's really cool. Like, the statue of Salazar is awesome. The ambience that you just feel when he's walking down the hall, like, it's pretty awesome.
It's got weight to it.
Yeah.
It's got emotional weight walking through.
And
you can feel the history
yeah.
of that room.
But so we see Tom, which is crazy because he's, a memory. And then he, lays out his whole plan of how he's been, manipulating Ginny through the
Right.
book, and he's been really trying to get to Harry. Thing I liked about it was that, Harry at first didn't really catch on to it because he was in hero mode. Like, he was so focused on what was supposed to be happening rather than, realizing that this is actually the bad guy. And he wouldn't have had any reason to think that because, the diary has only been his friend.
Right.
And it has only been... But the main reason why I like Tom as a character, and we find out it's Voldemort, which, I mean, I'm sure I will end up not liking him. We'll see. But
At some point, I'm going to stop
Hopefully.
liking Voldemort. But
Well, let's hope.
I like...
That's
so
awesome.
I like bad guys. I always
Okay.
have. I think villains are really what drive stories, and...
Well, heroes wouldn't have anything to do if there's
Exactly.
not a good villain.
And the fact that I'd been sitting there trying to figure out what's going on this whole time, and some points I feel like, you just throw, like, authors may throw things in there that are just there and you couldn't have predicted them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the diary and this whole plot is such a unique way to introduce a villain that it just took me by surprise, and I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the dialogue he had with Harry.
Good.
And I don't know, it made me like Tom because he was so evil and so sinister, and he was taking advantage. I don't like him for taking advantage
Right.
of Ginny, but like
He was vampiric on her.
Yeah,
yeah.
the how terrible it was compelling to me, and I just thought that it was a unique bad guy that I'd never really come across in all of the fantasy that I've been around.
So what did you think about how Harry was able to then defeat both the Basilisk and Tom?
Well, I think one note that I had was, all of these wizards in the wizarding world don't say Voldemort's name. They don't say him. It's you-know-who, because they're afraid of the power that it gives him. And I think one thing that needs to be taken into account is that when Harry says that you're not the strongest sorcerer, Albus Dumbledore is, and that he says his name, and then his phoenix comes to protect Harry. I don't know if that's actually why, or...
It's a really interesting take on that.
But he
The
uses
power of
his
the
name, and he gets help from it. So maybe that really is a true thing, because Harry this whole time has been using Voldemort's name, and he
Right.
doesn't believe that it's an actual thing. I mean, maybe he's not afraid of it, but maybe like it honestly he seems like a kid who just doesn't believe that that's really a thing.
And yet here he is being helped by something
Exactly.
maybe similar.
That's I really like that.
Yeah,
thought.
I've never
thought about it that way for sure.
Mm-mm.
That using Dumbledore's name is the thing that triggered it, not because I'm showing loyalty to it. It's one of those, if you're going to flat out say Dumbledore, and maybe there's like he knows the emotion behind Harry saying Dumbledore's name. It's like how you use it. Because if Tom Riddle would say Dumbledore's name, it's usually got a bad connotation to it. Yeah. So maybe there's something built in that.
And maybe that's why when Harry says Voldemort, it doesn't work the same way, because maybe Voldemort as an evil wizard would gain power from people being fearful in their connotation when they say,
exactly.
Lord Voldemort.
Exactly. Dumbledore's is more of a loyalty based. Voldemort's is more of a fear tactic based. And I like that. Basically, it's almost like whatever your main trait is that fuels you, that it gives you the most power, which those are the two.
Well, I mean, power in the world is people support, is people following you and what you believe in. So if what you believe in is fear and instilling evil,
exactly.
Exactly.
That's their main characteristic of how they lead or present themselves. So I like that a lot. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I just thought that was a little like a thing that I thought, because Harry he did defeat the basilisk, which was cool, but he wouldn't have done it without Fawkes. And Fawkes is a cool character,
right?
Because he really, I don't know if it's a girl or a guy. Honestly,
I think it's a boy. I think they're male.
It doesn't say,
but
she wins the fight essentially by knocking out the eyes and healing Harry when he.
Oh yeah.
We said Fawkes has like the best assists.
Oh yeah.
Like Harry
he
got
drove,
the kill.
He drove coast to coast and then passed it for a quick tap in one timer. Basically
timer, because first Harry killed the snake after Fawkes blinded it, and then Fawkes heals Harry and drops the basilisk fang on his lap, so Harry could then kill the diary.
I thought the fang was just
Nope.
He the bird literally picks it up and drops it on Harry's lap.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and he didn't even.
Yep.
And it was Harry
Assist.
without thinking.
Assist.
The movie, Harry pulls it out of his arm and uses that, which we'll get to here shortly.
No, yeah. I just think it was an awesome scene. I like the way that J.K. writes action. Yes. I think a lot of this book was not a fan of, because there's a lot of, I like exposition, I like the world, but I just think it's slow, and I don't think she's great at writing mysteries because she throws in plot points, at least, I don't know, I'm excited to see more, but she throws in plot points that to me sometimes don't make sense, shouldn't be there, are too out of the whack to really draw it together, at least from a first time read through. But when I get to that action scene, I was just reading through it, and I wasn't seeing what I remember from the movie, because this is probably my least watched movie out of all of them, honestly.
Probably because nobody made you watch these as much as the other.
But I just probably have only seen it maybe one or two times years ago, and so I kind of saw what was coming, but
right.
The specific scenes, I saw in my head what I was reading, and I don't usually do that a lot, and I read through it really quickly, and it just seemed to flow together really well, and it was exciting. And I don't know, this whole chapter I really liked.
Any other thoughts before we leave the chamber?
Before we leave the chamber, not really.
Okay, so let's go to McGonagall's office.
Well, headed out of the chamber, yes. I liked the full circle of Lockhart's character that it kind of comes around to, because you love to hate Lockhart, and he does get the blunt end of the wand, at the end of it, and he doesn't know who he is. And I think that's a perfect resolution for a character like that. He didn't die. He didn't win. He just doesn't know anymore. He was wiping people's memories, and now that's what happened to him.
Yep.
And I don't know.
Fell on his own sword.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then I like the fact that Harry got out of the chamber on his own will. He didn't black out and Dumbledore didn't come and save him. He
got to be a true hero.
Yeah, I really think that was the biggest thing that I was worried about, because I don't know. The first book, he was still new to everything, but I feel like Harry's really coming into his own in this book.
Okay.
So
he's making his way through hero school.
Yep. Definitely.
He's hero level 2. Finish the story.
Oh, and then I have a note about she's great at callbacks, just in general. She always brings things back. He felt like, was this when he got bitten? He said he felt like flu powder. He had just been traveling with flu powder for
I think so. Like when he got the basilisk
Yeah.
thing stuck in him.
Mhm.
Yep. And then he thought he was dying.
Yeah, and he's said something about like he felt like he had been traveling with flu powder for weeks, and like at first I was like, what is that? And then I was like, oh my gosh, because it's, I mean,
That's from chapter 4.
yeah, I take this into chunks when I, every 5 chapters, and it's been a while since I read the first 4
Right.
chapters. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think she does really good at callbacks in general.
Okay. So then we go and we report about what just happened
Mm-hmm.
to McGonagall and Dumbledore and the Weasley parents, and then move on to that big feast. So in chapter 18, any thoughts about that? Or
I think Dumbledore is being Dumbledore. He saves the day. A couple lines that he says about like when he saves Harry from outing Ginny is the one who did it.
Right.
Dumbledore automatically says it was Voldemort, and ties that in and gives Harry the leeway to say everything that happened. And I don't know. I think just in general, it was a good wrap up. I didn't really like the Dobby stuff just because I just don't feel like Dobby did anything in this book.
So he won't be getting your favorite character in these 3 chapters.
I'd say if you're gonna put money on it,
All right.
probably not for.
You don't
Dobby.
think he should have been freed? I'm just wondering.
I think he should have been freed because there shouldn't be slaves, and especially because Dobby is obviously stronger than Lucius Malfoy when he knocks him down the stairs.
Which is cool.
Yeah, which is an awesome moment.
Well, I don't really think it's down the stairs. I think that's more of a movie moment again.
No, he
There's
says
no
down
there's
3
no
flights of
in the
stairs.
movie, in that scene.
Oh, it does say down the stairs in the book?
Yeah.
I'm getting confused.
But I don't think that Harry. I don't see why Harry had such a strong connection to Dobby to feel like he had to go back and do something for him. Is where I lose the disconnect, because
Dobby did him no favors.
not really. I mean, he warned him, but he had all the answers and didn't give them to him. Like Dobby had all the answers and didn't give them to Harry. He didn't. Like, he tried to do this weird puzzle thing and give him hints, and it just didn't work out. Like,
Right.
his logic is so much different than a human's logic, I guess. But
Well, or maybe than other elves too. Who knows?
True,
It's just
yeah.
Dobby.
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I just didn't see the connection there. Yeah.
Any other final thoughts on these last 3 chapters of book 2?
Lucius Malfoy is for sure bad. That's gonna come back, I think. We find out that I thought there was some interesting possibilities for Percy's secret, but I like that it was just that he had a girlfriend and he was
It's
embarrassed.
so mundane.
Yeah,
Like such a 16-year-old
So
kid.
Like, I
thing.
thought there was some, like, I don't know if JK's hinting at some
Right.
some stuff there, but then it was, he's just got a girlfriend, so it was
it's
pretty
just
funny.
a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
girls.
I don't know. I think it was a good wrap up. It didn't drag on too long. I'm ready for next year,
Okay.
essentially. Yeah.
All right. Ready to do your 3 burning questions?
Heck yeah.
All right. Question number 1. Here we go. Which random secret underground place would you rather visit? Fluffy's obstacle course or the Chamber of Secrets?
Ooh, probably the chamber to give my respects to old Salazar.
Head of house.
Oh,
A
yeah.
little nod.
Represent.
Okay. Chapter 17. The question is, I have to get there. If a hero is only as good as his or her weapon, why would Harry ever cast his wand aside in the first place when he entered the chamber?
Who knows? I mean, at that point, the only real threat to him in his mind was the basilisk, which I don't know if he could. I don't know. They've got to have like
specifically when he kneels down
Yeah.
to check on Ginny.
No, yeah.
Okay.
But in that moment, he wasn't worried about anything else but saving her and getting out of the basilisk. So I don't know. They got to have like a wand sheath or something, right? Like
Yeah,
a little,
definitely, right?
Like, you can't- I think that was a mistake, but a little convenient for Tom. But
Right.
also brings in the sword, which we didn't talk about, which is cool. Cool
Okay.
aspect. We didn't really learn much about it, but it comes to Gryffindors when they need it.
Okay.
Those who ask, which I thought, I don't know, I'm a big fan of swords, so like seeing that.
All right. Ready for your last question?
Mhm.
Dobby, you just won your freedom. What are you going to do now?
I don't know what elves do in the world. Maybe go apply. No, that's goblins. I was gonna say apply at Gringotts. I don't know. Tour the world.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
All right. What was your favorite line?
So my favorite line, kind of hinted at it earlier. Well, I liked the line in the chamber that Tom said, where Tom's like recalling all of Ginny's like things that she wrote down in the diary, and he's like mocking her,
Yeah.
like that whole long thing. Like, could you imagine, like some 50-year-old guy essentially like reciting all of your deepest desires to your crush, like in high, like as a 13-year-old, 11-year-old?
Oh, that's
That'd
sad.
be terrible.
It's crushing.
So I mean, that line was built up Tom for me, which is like part of the reason why I like
forgot
him.
about that.
But my favorite line comes from page 294, and it's said by Snape, and it's when Gilderoy Lockhart walks in late to the teacher's meeting.
Sorry, did I miss something?
And he's like, sorry, I woke up, I slept in, or what did he say? Let me see. He said, so sorry, dozed off. What have I missed? And then as he walks in, Snape goes, just the man, he said. The very man. A girl has been snatched by the monster, Lockhart, taken into the Chamber of Secrets itself. Your moment has come at last. And you can just feel the giddiness coming from Snape where that's never been there before. Like, this is it. Like, he knows he's got him in his sights, and he knows that he can just make him look like a fool. And
That's such one of the best scenes in like all of these books, because it's so underrated. Like, it's not what you think of too, because you see all of the teachers ganging up on a character everyone hates.
Yeah.
Everybody
collectively
at this point gets it. And
they don't have to put on a front because first
because
of all,
there's no kids around.
And Dumbledore's not there either.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even have to like play nice because the boss is there.
Yeah.
Boss isn't there. Everybody's scared. There's no kids. Forget you people. Let's get them.
Yeah.
Like, everyone pitches in. It's so funny and good and just well done.
That's one of those scenes that for me always proved how well done the adults were.
Right.
That was one of my biggest draws reading this, because most children's books you read in the children are well defined and the adults are flat.
Yeah.
They're one dimension.
Yes.
These are people.
This is one of those scenes that really nails.
This is what
that for
teachers
me.
are like behind, like
Yeah.
out of the sight.
Oh,
which is great.
True. All right. One last question.
Cool.
Who is your section MVP?
We can't say Harry.
I mean, you could if you really felt that. Like,
I'll tell you, chapter 17, both of us pretty much decided it had to be Harry. Like,
Yes.
we
with a backup of Fox.
Right.
Yeah.
Fox was the follow up on that. It's hard. It's hard not
to give it to
But-
him for some of things like that. But
I mean, I think it has to be Ron, because he, like I said, was kind of the driving force in this section. But the thing, so it's easy to say, like, oh, his sister's in danger, he's going to do whatever it takes to save her. But I think the real thing that does it for me is when there is the barrier, like the cave in, and they're on the other side, and Rod can't get through. He lets go and trusts. I mean, sure, he's probably scared too, but he trusts Harry to go and save his sister, which could be, I don't know, I think he knows well enough that if anybody's going to be able to do it, it is Harry, and that goes a long way for their relationship. But it goes a long way to be able to take a step back and let somebody else do something that you care so much about. So
well, and to not say, wait for me, let me make a whole way.
It could have taken so long. You just got to go.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right.
I think it's got to be Ron.
Fair enough. Good choice. So that wraps up this section. We will see you again in our end of book spectacular.
I'm
Are you
ready.
excited? You ready?
Yeah,
Get
definitely.
your full book superlatives ready. We
Mhm.
got plenty for you.
And then pick up your copy of book 3
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's coming.
Or my copy.
Or Luke's copy.
True. This is true. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for going through book 2 with us. Final thoughts?
Good book. The end made the rest of the book worth it.
Okay.
2 down, 5 to go.
Let's go.
They get longer.
That's okay.
We're
Okay, good.
16% through.
That's right.
Okay.
It'll be great.
All right.
Bye.
See you later.
We would now like to welcome back our target audience perspective, Lorelai. Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
We finished book 2. How's that feel?
Woohoo. Happy.
Happy? Yeah.
Glad it's over, or glad you got to the end and enjoyed it?
Half and half. Both.
Why?
Because number 2 is not my favorite, but I'm excited for the other one.
So to keep going with us?
Yeah.
All right.
Nice. All right, so we're going to get off. We're talking about 16 through 18, starting with basically after we just met Aragog, and they think it's Myrtle, is the girl that's dead. And
Yes.
so what'd you think about them actually finally figuring that out?
the first time I read this, it was like a mind equals blown.
Uh-huh.
Like a whoa, like everything's connecting finally. Because at first I was like, where is this Myrtle girl coming from? And
Right. Why is she just
there?
so annoying and
And
always
like,
here?
oh my gosh. and then like I read to that part, I was like, oh me. But like I watched the movies first, so like I knew, but like in the book it was like more like it was still like a mind blown, but at the same time,
It's the reveal is better.
yeah.
Cool. So Hermione is down for the count, right? She's out of this, so it's all on the boys' shoulders at this point. And they don't go talk to Myrtle right away, right? But whenever Ginny gets taken into the chamber, they it seems like they do take the initiative, right? It seems like they actually do. Like, let's go tell a teacher what we know. What do you think of them kind of overseeing the teachers discussing it that it's Ginny and all of that? What do you think of that whole scene? Anything?
I thought that Ron would be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get yelled at for something for some reason.
Clearly, this is my fault that it's my sister.
Yeah, and like, I'm the closest to her. I'm like mom's gonna kill me.
She's my responsibility.
Yeah.
Ron definitely seems to be the one that takes things personally more than others.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, yeah, that's a pretty good pickup. So with that, then they charge Lockhart with, okay, well, you're the one that says he knows where the chamber is. Have at it. You free reign now.
Yep.
And the boys, Harry and Ron, decide to go help him.
Mhm.
What about that whole scene where they, approach him in his office and all of that? What'd you think?
I think that is very smart that they I think it's smart from JK that like they overheard it, they know this information, and now they're going to him. But I also think that it's really funny that they're still making him go, and they're just like, we hate you, go down there. Go.
It's a nice guinea pig to push in front of them.
Yeah.
It's a little protective.
You go first.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that too. And then they get down into the chamber, and Harry somehow figures out how to speak parcel mouth on command now, which is nice, right? It's pretty good skill. And Lockhart takes Ron's wand. Why don't you tell us about what happened all in there?
Lockhart is like, I have no clue what to do. I'm getting out of here. So he takes Ron's wand, and I feel like Ron and Harry are just like, oh my god, he's gonna use a spell on us with Ron's wand, and Ron is like, oh my gosh, no, this is it. But Harry's just like, he took Ron's wand.
Do you think Harry figured that it would backfire?
Yeah, I think Harry was trying to play it cool, oh my gosh, but in his head he was just like,
Cool. So then we meet Tom Riddle in the chamber. What did you think of the chamber atmosphere and the conversation interaction with Ginny on the floor and Tom Riddle?
In the book, it was very mysterious, descripted about it, and it was cool. And then Harry finds Ginny, and he's like, oh my god. But Harry knows that Tom Riddle was a long time ago, and he knows that he's a ghost, but he's not asking questions. He just wants to grab Ginny and get out of there. But in my head, I'm just like, why is he there? How did
You're
he
questioning
get there?
it for Harry?
Yeah, I'm just I'm helping you out.
You're being the Hermione that wasn't there?
Yeah, I'm just what's going on? Why is he there?
Why aren't you wondering this?
Yeah, you're just trying. I get that he's just trying to get out of there, but at the same time, he should be a little bit curious instead of just help me. We could talk about this later.
Mm-hmm.
But just when's later? Are you gonna get out and he's just gonna come with you and you guys are gonna be best friends or something? What are you planning here?
So then who shows up to partly save the day?
Ford.
Fox the Phoenix.
The Phoenix.
The Phoenix.
Do you have any particular thoughts about the Phoenix itself?
That was pretty good entrance. That was a cool entrance.
Did you understand why he showed up when he did?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that?
Dumbledore was apparently he is really cool, and he's just oh my gosh, Harry's in danger, go. And then he made this awesome entrance after the snake came in. He was just how he took his eyes out. Pretty cool.
Nice. What else did the Phoenix bring with him?
The sorting hat.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And whose sorting hat? Who made the sorting hat? Did we found out? Do you remember?
head of Gryffindor.
Yeah, Godric Gryffindor.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, Harry's able to pull Godric Gryffindor's sword from the hat because he showed that he's a true Gryffindor, is what we're led to believe. Do you think that Harry showed true Gryffindor qualities down there?
Yes, he was, instead of running, he was like finding any way to like just fight the beast and get this over with. Like, that's a brave thing, like incredibly brave.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely bravery in the true face of death. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
quite literally in this case.
He was like, I feel like in his head he was like, I'm gonna die. This is it. Just gonna say my farewells.
Yeah. So after that, then Harry defeats the snake, stabs the diary, right?
Yeah.
Memory of Tom Riddle gone. Harry gets out of the Chamber of Secrets with the help of Fawkes and Ron and Ginny and all of that, and then starts to explain everything to Dumbledore and Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. What did you think of that meeting that they all had? Anything really stand out to you as...
I feel like Harry, instead of like blaming Ginny, and he was like, she did it, like normal kids would at that age. He was like, no, it was like all a mistake. She was innocent. Like, please do not like harm her in any way.
Yeah, and he does a good job at kind of leaving her out of the entire story until Dumbledore basically asks, like, how do you think Tom Riddle tricked Ginny into helping? He kind of gives Harry that, hey, I know that she wasn't involved. I'm not going to have you try to defend her because I get it.
Chill, bro.
Right, chill, bro. He's like, let's move past that. Let's get to the real question. So another one of those Dumbledore clearly has a good idea what's going on all the time.
Dumbledore knows everything.
Yeah, definitely. Final thoughts on those last 3 chapters?
I thought it was pretty cool, and also a little like dumb that pretty cool and a little bit dumb that Harry set Dobby free.
Why dumb?
'Cause like he knew he was annoying him, but he also knew that like he was like being hurt and like he needed help, so
just like he helped Ginny, he helped Dobby, but in a different kind of way.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Are you ready for your 3 burning questions?
Yes.
Okay. Which random, secret, underground place would you rather visit? The obstacle course underneath Fluffy from the first book, or the Chamber of Secrets?
The obstacle course.
Why?
I'm pretty good at like finding my way out of things, and like instead of just like fighting this weird snake and being like, oh my god.
All right. Next. This was from the chapter where Harry sees Ginny. He runs over to Ginny and he casts his wand aside, right? And Tom Riddle picks up his wand.
Yes.
So if a hero is only as good as his weapon, why would Harry ever cast his wand aside?
Because Harry's even awesomer than his wand.
Oh, so it wasn't a big deal, you think?
No.
He did end up using it. I mean,
True.
Keep going. Yeah, that's a different perspective. I like that. Keep
like,
going.
Harry knows that like he's gonna like need his wand at some point because he has no clue that the sword's coming. So he's like, I don't know why he just set it off to the side, but he apparently sets it off to the side. He picks it up. He's like, ooh, help. And then he's like, wait, hold on. I have a matchup that he's helping me. Like, I gotta destroy this dude. So then he like tries to get his wand back. He's like, give me my wand. He's like, nah. So he's just like using his fists for a little bit, and then the sword comes, and he's just like, finally.
All right.
So he, as a good hero, is able to improvise as well in this situation.
Okay. Here's your last question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Dobby, you just won your freedom. What are you going to do next?
I'm going to set all of the elves free.
Oh, go on a mission around the world?
Yes.
Nice. Handful of socks.
Elf Liberation Front, here we come.
Yes.
All right. Lorelai, what was your favorite character in this part of the books?
In like the whole book, or
Or
just
in this
like
section?
Just the
That
end, those
section?
last 3 chapters.
I don't know, Dumbledore. I gotta say Dumbledore, because he's just like he knows the whole situation. He's just like giving some Dumbledore info to Harry again. That like it's fine.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming through this entire book with us. You ready to start book 3?
Yeah.
You gonna keep going with us?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We will see you at the end of book spectacular. Get all of your full book superlatives ready. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So here at the end of the book, we are going to go through our full bad guy breadcrumbs, basically looking at every single thing that led to the main big baddie being the big baddie at the end of this book.
So welcome back, our bad guy breadcrumbs detective.
Hello, this is Ben, the sly private eye, and the following are the results of my investigation into who is responsible for this year's trouble at Hogwarts.
July 1992.
Dobby, the house elf, warns Harry Potter of an evil coming to Hogwarts which could jeopardize his safety and pleads for him not to return to school, going as far as trying to frame Harry with the Ministry of Magic by using a hover charm near Muggles.
What we know now?
Dobby, the house elf, is enslaved to the Malfoy family. He either overheard Lucius's plan to bring havoc to the school and decided on his own to warn Harry Potter, or he was ordered to do so by the elder Malfoy to keep Harry's meddling out of the way.
August 1992.
Harry Potter, along with the Weasley family, go to Diagon Alley to get their school supplies. Along the way, during an unattended detour to Knockturn Alley, while Harry hides in the cabinet of a shop, he overhears Lucius Malfoy speaking to the shopkeeper, Mr. Morgan, and negotiates a sale of unsavory poisons to keep them out of the grips of the Ministry of Magic, and specifically Arthur Weasley and his anti-Muggle act that Mr. Weasley has just put into place. After a deal is struck by the two, the Malfoys leave and Harry finds his way to Diagon Alley and into the bookshop Flourish and Blots, where, with the Weasleys, they meet, once again, the Malfoys. During an altercation, Arthur and Lucius have a fistfight, after which Lucius returns a book to the youngest Weasley's cauldron and left the store.
What we know now?
Within the book that was returned to Ginny Weasley was a diary. That diary was placed there by the elder Malfoy.
September 1992.
Harry Potter is stopped at the entryway to platform 9 3/4 and is not allowed to board the Hogwarts Express. During a detention with the new Defense Against Dark Arts teacher, Harry hears an ominous, bodied voice speaking of terrible and violent things.
What we know now?
Dobby is the one who sealed the entryway to prevent Harry from returning to school, either out of caution or being ordered to do so by his master. The voice that was heard was of a basilisk, which had already been set free by the heir of Slytherin.
October 1992.
After a Halloween Death Day party, Harry hears the ominous voice again and decides to follow it through the halls, where he, Ron, and Hermione come upon Mrs. Norris petrified, with warning, "Enemies of the heir beware."
What we know now?
Ginny Weasley was responsible for writing the message on the wall, and the basilisk was responsible for petrifying Mrs. Norris.
November 1992.
Harry is attacked by a rogue bludger during a Quidditch match, causing his arm to be broken and subsequently have all the non-broken bones from his arm removed. In the hospital wing, Dobby appears and lets Harry know that it was he who blocked platform 9 3/4 and also set the bludger after him to protect him. He also informs of the true existence of the Chamber of Secrets and that it has been opened in the past.
December 1992.
Hagrid tells Harry of the second rooster he found this term to have been strangled, just before Justin Finch Fletchley and Nearly Headless Nick are found to have been petrified. During Harry and Ron's excursion with Polyjuice Potion, Draco Malfoy reveals that his father informed him of the Chamber of Secrets being opened 50 years prior, and that a Muggleborn was killed. He also lets them know that Ron's father was under investigation for the matter of the flying car, and Lucius Malfoy took that opportunity to demand Arthur's Muggle Protection Act to be eliminated.
What we know now?
Ginny is responsible for killing the roosters to keep the crowing from harming Slytherin's basilisk.
February 1993.
A diary is found by Harry Potter, having been left abandoned in the girls' toilet. While investigating, he finds the diary is able to respond to his questions, and is able to show him memories of Tom Marvolo Riddle, and his capture of the person responsible for unleashing the creature on the school, none other than Rubeus Hagrid.
What we know now?
Ginny has been communicating with the diary about her hopes, fears, and Harry, and allowed it to get stronger over time, and Tom Riddle was really the heir of Slytherin, and responsible for opening the Chamber of Secrets and framing Hagrid.
April 1993.
Hagrid is arrested on suspicion of his involvement once again in opening the Chamber of Secrets. Lucius Malfoy informs Dumbledore he has been removed by the school governors due to his lack of leadership.
May 1993.
Harry and Ron follow Hagrid's instructions and follow a trail of spiders into the Forbidden Forest to meet Aragog, a giant spider who was blamed to be Slytherin's monster when Hagrid was younger. He assures the boy it was not true, and lets them know the person that was killed 50 years ago was a girl in a bathroom.
What we know now?
Lucius Malfoy bullied the governors into removing Dumbledore in an attempt to permanently remove him from the school. The girl mentioned by Aragog is none other than Moaning Myrtle, who the boys, along with Hermione, had spent a great amount of time with in her bathroom this year while they created their Polyjuice Potion.
June 1993.
When Ginny Weasley was taken into the chamber, Harry, Ron, and Gilderoy Lockhart head down after her realizing the entrance was in Myrtle's bathroom. After being split up due to Ron's backfiring wand, Harry enters the chamber to find Ginny asleep and Tom Riddle standing over her, not appearing to be completely solid. Riddle explains to Harry that Ginny had been helping him grow stronger. By bearing her soul to him, he was able to take possession of her and force her to do things she didn't want, like killing the roosters and writing the messages on the walls. But he was furious when she had stolen the diary back from Harry because he was the one Tom really wanted to meet. He wanted to know how such an unimpressive boy could beat the greatest dark wizard of all time. He reveals that Voldemort is his past, his present, and future, and that he is Lord Voldemort. Lord Voldemort being an anagram for Tom Riddle. Harry is able to fight off Riddle's monster with the help of Fawkes, Dumbledore's Phoenix, and the Sorting Hat. He is then able to vanquish Riddle by destroying the diary with the Basilisk's Fang.
What we know now.
Lucius Malfoy planted the diary on Ginny Weasley in hopes of reopening the Chamber of Secrets, knowing it had belonged to his former master, Lord Voldemort. He had planned on framing the girl, causing her father's Muggle Protection Act to be withdrawn due to his family's involvement in dark magic. After reviewing the facts of this past year, it is determined the real villain is none other than Lucius Malfoy. If his selfishness had succeeded, not only would the Weasleys be shamed, an untold number of Muggle-born students could have been killed, and Lord Voldemort could have re-risen to power. Thankfully, help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who ask for it.
So that pretty much does it to wrap up the end of this book, non-spoiler wise. As always, after every 5 chapters, in this case, after these 3 chapters, we will now open up our full book unrestricted section. It's one of our favorites for sure. At this point, if you are being a good kid, a good reader, and not trying to get spoiled, if this is your first time going through it, please leave now.
Make sure to join us next week as we do our end of book spectacular, where we bring back the whole Harry Potter team as we go through all of the superlatives that we have. Best chapter, worst chapter, best character, worst character, and so on, including our favorite trivia.
Yep, Harry Potter pub trivia. Always a good time. And we will be joined, as Melissa said, by the full Harry Potter team, including our Quidditch correspondent, Abby, our first-time reader, Riley, our target audience perspective, Lorelai, and, who you just heard from, our sly private eye detective, Benji.
If, however, you are not leaving us now and you would like to join us with your final Gilderoy Lockhart signed permission slip,
come on in. For the final time of book 2, welcome to the unrestricted section.
golf clap.
Maybe not the end of smarmy host Luke. We'll see.
I would like to nominate smarmy host Luke be retired.
I think it's one of those things that just becomes a part of you.
Any time we might see Gilderoy Lockhart again in book 5, and even then it's questionable.
We'll see. It just becomes a part of you. You know, inherently part of the core of my person at this point, I think.
All right.
We'll see. So what is your first thought at, done with book 2. What's your first thought on connecting this to other books that we have?
All right. Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. We do these notes a little bit different than our normal unrestricted section, and I don't know which ones are mine and which ones are yours. So I'm just going to pick one that I like. Sure. I feel like this sounds like me, but it could be you. So if I'm stealing yours.
Yeah, the colors here are not conducive.
Usually we're very organized. And this one, not so much. So we're winging it. But I agree with this statement. It says, I have massive issues with the exams being canceled. And
this is definitely yours.
It's definitely me. And it's not because I'm a nerd or that I am a teacher. But for the 5th and 7th years, don't they have to take the OWLSs and the NEWTSs, the owls and the newts? My hope would be that those 2 classes at least sat for exams. Otherwise, that really kind of messes up their entire futures. Thoughts?
Yes. So I'm...
Yes, that's a
yes, I have thoughts. So I think my overall thought is, so I remember whenever I was in, say, like AP English my junior and senior year, those AP exams didn't happen in finals week necessarily. You know, those standardized tests could happen before. They could be taken care of already. Because I'm trying to think to Harry's 5th year, because that's the only real example that we have.
Right. Because
they weren't there in 7th year. We don't really hear much outside of the twins talking about getting ready for their OWLs, because they skipped their newts as well. We know basically Percy's outcome from his newts. He does pretty well. But like, there's a chance that they happen earlier than that final exam week. I don't know, because they do get those... They get those responses back over the summer still.
Well, and I wonder, like, because the teachers have so many exams to give, one would wonder if maybe those are scheduled even just the week before, and then those years, because they're harder, they get an extra week off. Or maybe it's vice versa, because remember in book 1, they had like a week of just hanging out after the exams. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's when they take... Right. And sit for the exams. Yeah, I don't really remember.
I think grade year 5 and grade year 7 still take their standardized tests.
I would hope so.
I think so, because like you said, that is a valuable just credential resume builder that you pretty much have to have. And it also decides what you can take in 6th year and 7th year moving forward. A lot of the classes you can't get into if you don't have the proper OWL level.
It's like an ACT. You have to have it.
Right.
But I know in book 5, they definitely take it towards the end of the year. So I'm just hoping, like, I just hope for those kids it doesn't get messed up just because people are like, oh, look, as a special treat. Great.
Right.
Thanks. Right. Just what I wanted.
So whatever your final grade was at the end of the school year, you just get that? No, it is different because they are graded by not professors.
Because it's a standardized test.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm going to go ahead and just say that they probably still take those.
In my brain, they do, because otherwise I'd be very upset.
What year is Percy?
6th.
He's in 6th.
So it doesn't affect him.
So we don't know anybody. Angelina Johnson? No, she's Oliver Wood.
No, Angelina Johnson. No, Oliver Wood's a 6th year like Percy. They're the same.
So who's a 5th year right now?
Angelina. No, not Angelina.
She's a twins age.
Huh. Nobody we know. Nobody. Nope. We know no 5th years and no 7th years. This brings us back to my issue from last book of how we didn't meet anybody old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that book, it made more sense because I think, you might not know older students, but like that's, I don't know. Like,
how do you not know anybody?
Yeah, that's fair.
And I say that because by the end of the series, not counting book 7, because that's not really a Hogwarts.
It's not a school year
book.
Yeah.
Per se. But we definitely... It's not that it's like, oh, we're going to introduce and name all of the 1st and 2nd years, but it's definitely they're around. We kicked 1st years out of these chairs. But they don't even mention the 7th years.
Right.
So that kind of thing just kind of irks me.
Okay, fair enough.
How about you? Another thought.
We see Harry's first use of his signature Disarming Charm, and it was used on a teacher.
Nice.
Second spell he's used on a teacher ever, right?
True.
Second attack of a teacher, I should say. Because Quirrell, he didn't use a spell on, right? Well, I guess he used his mother's spell kind of thing.
Yeah,
but yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that he's already using his Disarming Charm.
I feel like we need to keep track of that. Does he attack a teacher at least once a year?
Yeah. Because
he does here. He does in book 3 when they attack Snape in the Shrieking Shack. I feel like...
Of how many times he attacks teachers?
Does he do it at least once a year? He does it in
He doesn't in book 4.
He does in book 7 because, just in general. Maybe. Does he
book
ever
6 he tries to over and over and over, but fails.
Yes.
He tries to, though.
Yes. In 5...
He doesn't,
but he does attack adults. And because he fights Voldemort and the Death Eaters in 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So
okay.
he's
I was
definitely
thinking
taking on a.
professors.
I agree with
but
you.
Yeah.
So not professors per se in 4 and 5. And 7 I'm not sure about. I'm not sure if he ever actually...
He doesn't.
No.
No, because he doesn't attack Snape because McGonagall does it. She steps in front of
Right.
him in that Great Hall scene.
So 4 out of 7.
Fair enough.
That's more than 50%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no other teachers outside of DADA teachers, I believe. I don't think there's any others.
True. If you count...
I don't think he ever did anything to Lupin either.
Well, if you count the fact that he attacked Snape when Snape was still the potions master in book 3, although he does become his defense against the dark arts teacher in book 6, that's questionable. But he attacks him again in book 6, so we'll count it.
Yep.
Great.
Okay. What's your next thought?
So Salazar Slytherin handpicking students, right? They say that Salazar Slytherin wanted to limit the students entering Hogwarts, and doesn't that sound a little bit like Professor Slughorn?
Picking his favorites.
Yes, like these are the ones I'm
Creating the
going to
slug
teach.
club.
These are the ones I'm going to be a little. So it's a very Slytherin thing. I'm glad Riley's not here to yell at me about it.
So there's a really interesting theory out there, and I don't want to get too much into it, but that Salazar Slytherin might not have been really a bad guy, and that a lot of his thoughts or what he preached is taken out of context in nowadays. Because the thing that it reads, and we get this from Professor Binns, and I'm basically just trying to remember what it says, but he says he didn't think the Muggles were trustworthy. It wasn't that he disliked Muggleborns. It was he thought they were untrustworthy. And if we think back, a thousand years, we know that they were being persecuted.
Yep.
The magical folk were being persecuted by non-magical folk. They say that in that same line there. And also that there were a lot of goblin wars and things on and off. So there's been a lot of tension between magical and non-magical and goblin type folk. So there's a good chance that really Salazar Slytherin was maybe more realistic about the threat that Muggleborns being included in the school as, say, infiltrators or spies. Like, that could be a pretty dangerous thing at the time.
True.
So he might not be hating Muggleborns because he thinks they have dirty blood or anything. That seems more of a perversion that happens later, potentially.
Oh, you mean how somebody could take something that was written many, many, many thousands of years ago and twist
use it to persecute somebody?
And use it to their own benefit and twist the meaning? That sounds familiar.
Yeah, kind of like that. So I think there's a good credence to Slytherin himself might not have been that bad of a guy, and that the idea of the chamber itself was kind of a failsafe. That if Hogwarts fell, if they were taken over by the clearly opponent at the time, is what it reads as, that the snake was basically just there to, you know what? We've already lost. It's kind of that final fail-safe. It was like, well, if it's not going to be okay between us, then no one's going to win. Like, you're not going to beat us because the Basilisk will come out and just mass murder whoever took over the castle that shouldn't be there.
Right.
So there might be holes in it, but we have nothing that specifically says Salazar Slytherin didn't like Muggle-born people because he thought they were bad or anything like that. It could be more of a societal that
concern
was just a realistic issue at the time.
Okay.
So
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not bad. And so, like, reading back through this with that mentality, it's funny to see how you said 1,000 years later how those ideas can easily be manipulated and perverted into something just terrible. So my next thought, after Mrs. Norris gets found, let me look up that scene real quick. Go do one of yours. I'll come back to mine.
Okay. Well, I just lost all mine. So hold on. Here we go. Okay. So Ginny we don't get a lot of her, except that there's a lot of her in the background scenes, right? And so she's definitely the abused girlfriend, if you will, right? Or traumatized victim of a social media predator, basically. That's what it boils down to. But there is, at one point in the book, an inkling of the strong, like, brave girl she grows into.
When she steps up to Draco Malfoy at the bookshop?
No.
Okay.
I have a later spot, although that's a good one too. So I like this.
Is this when she doesn't have the diary?
It is.
Okay.
Because she sent the song to Harry.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I mean, it definitely isn't like the best use of her bravery.
But it's a courageous act.
Right. Because think about it. Just like she says, and I believe it's book 6, book 5, she says to Harry, living with Fred and George long enough, one stops thinking about if you shouldn't do it and starts figuring out, well, let me figure out how to do it.
Right.
It's more just she truly is more Fred and George than she is any of the other Weasleys.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you don't see it very much in the first several books. But I think these are little glimpses.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that one.
Yeah, no, that's a good catch. It's one of those really, really subtle things that it's interesting knowing that she doesn't have the diary then. And so she gets some of her inner strength back and is able to show that, but no one's going to notice that.
Well, and I don't even know if that was necessarily the point of that. Like, if that...
It fits so well.
It does.
I feel it. That to me, it feels like it was designed that way. I mean, maybe not 100%, hey, I'm going to do this because she doesn't have the diary, but it fits so well that she is showing her own personal decisions being made.
And they're kind of courageous, outside the box, over the top decisions.
Yeah, definitely.
Which, I mean, future Harry, I think that's really good for him to be with somebody who is bold, because not that he isn't brave and jumps in when he needs to, but I think he can overthink things and worry about like outcomes and stuff. And she's like, nope, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Yeah, she's definitely very creative minded,
yes.
for sure. So after Mrs. Norris is found, the hero trio decide to go back and investigate the scene.
Uh-huh.
So in that, they start looking around, and they say it can't hurt to have a poke around, said Harry, dropping his bag and getting to his hands and knees so that he could crawl along searching for clues. Scorch marks here and here. Come look at this, said Hermione. This is funny. And then they talk about the spiders marching in line. What were the scorch marks?
Yeah, I forgot about those. I have no idea.
Like, everything else makes sense. There was water all over the ground. The spiders,
Reflection.
we get that.
Nemesis.
What's with the scorch marks? We have no indication that the basilisk can do any kind of fire thing. Like,
and wasn't Mrs. Norris hanging from a torch? So it's not like they knocked that out,
right? Yeah, I don't know where
like
where
that
that
be
fits
like
in.
Lasers shooting from its eyeballs, which is not how it's described. I have no idea. You're right. That's a weird one.
It's the only thing that doesn't tie up.
Hey, listeners, if you got any ideas about the scorch marks,
definitely write in on
We'd
that
like
one,
to
because
know.
it's the only thing that I can't
no,
tie into anything. There's
neither.
no indication as to what they are from.
Nope. What do you think Ginny caught Percy doing with Penelope Clearwater?
Snogging or more.
I'm gonna go with probably just snogging.
Probably, but
it's a kid's book. We're gonna go with just that. But like, I kind of wanted a little bit more detail, just a little bit. I like that. That's something, unless it was something boring, like she caught him writing a letter to her back over the summer, which is boring.
My follow up is, what was Percy doing holed up in his room all summer?
I think he was writing to her
just all day long. Like, that's because you with Outpost, it's gonna take a little while.
True.
Like, you're gonna write a letter, send it, and then start writing the next letter. Like, that seems silly. They don't have texting. They don't have texting where it's instantaneous.
Or maybe they have like 2 letter sets going.
Or, and we don't know if this is impossible, he could have a fireplace in his room. They could be using flu call.
Or he could not really be there. He could have snuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. What else? How old is he? He's a 6th year, right? 16, so he's not of age yet.
Right.
So he won't be able to use magic. So probably not.
I don't know.
I don't know
using
either.
Flu powder count?
No, probably not, because he didn't magic it.
Right.
Huh.
The doer, not the user.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
I, however, as the 16, 17-year-old kid who holed herself up in her room to avoid all of my younger siblings, I don't really question that.
Right.
I would be reading in my room.
And that's how
kind
it
of
fits
Percy
into the
thing.
story of,
right.
He just doesn't
He's too
quite
cool for the
understand. Well, he
siblings.
doesn't fit in with the twins.
No.
And so, ergo, he doesn't fit in with Harry and Ron.
Right.
And Ginny's just kind of on her own a bit. She fits into that group as well as she wants to.
Right. She's choosing kind of to be.
Mm-hmm. Because Harry's there at this point. So, this is a big one. Like, no one could put the clues together about what kind of creature can petrify people. Like, it can't be that long of a list. Like, in all of these, like, I don't know. And, like, the knowing, like, no one interviews Myrtle at all. Like, hey.
Nobody ever talks to her ever.
You are the person that died here. You are the sole witness.
Soul.
You chose to be here for eternity. We should interrogate you. We should have some answers from you. Because clearly she's got the answers. Like, that would lead at least someone with any idea. Harry and Ron aren't the brightest all the time.
No.
But she gives them the information that they need to at least confirm. I think Dumbledore would have a pretty good idea of what's going on. I don't know.
Well, I have kind of an issue with saying Dumbledore's all-knowing, because he's not all-knowing. I
agree. This is a deduction thing.
I agree. I'm just saying in general, assuming that Dumbledore should know I think is faulty logic. I'm saying he should maybe know this, but just in general, people thinking, oh, Dumbledore knows everything.
I don't think.
I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't buy
And
into
I
that at
don't
all.
think he knows enough. And I think what he does know, he doesn't tell anybody because he's Dumbledore and has issues.
Yeah.
Side point.
Because Dumbledore.
Right.
Well, because Albus.
Because Grindelwald, let's be honest.
Because Ariana. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. Because the stupid Muggle boy's dad hurt. Really, it's just daddy issues. Anyway, sidebar. But the Myrtle thing, like, I think she's just so unlikable that nobody bothers.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's like the epitome of the character or the person in school that's always that one, like always has, I'm saying like a lot, that always is the person that's complaining or whining or whatever. And so nobody bothers to get to find out why this person is like that. But if you took 10 minutes and asked, it probably would help the situation. But because it's so annoying.
We've seen how she opened up when they asked her. She had never been more flattered in her death.
Right.
I mean, like,
right.
Like you could tell, like she.
It was a big deal for her.
So clearly no one's asked. Like that's what to me it's like. Or at least no one in a long time. Maybe it was Dippet who probably was kind of dumb, is what we're led to. Maybe not dumb, but maybe was so focused on other things.
Had other priorities.
I don't know. Like to me, with Dumbledore being there, I feel like this is something he could have figured out. And,
I agree,
and that's why I'm a little bit disappointed in him this book.
Well, or even like the thing with the spiders. How did nobody else notice the spiders? They went to investigate 3 days later, and the spiders were still walking in an unnatural straight line. Or
like, how does Filch has been sitting there all day?
Right.
He's been sitting there, holding guard. And that information is not hidden in a restricted book. It's just, I believe, it's in Fantastic Beasts. So why aren't more people aware of this? I get that Hermione is smart, and I get that Harry and Ron are, or especially Harry, are like, let's go solve the problem, people. But you're telling me in a house full of Gryffindors, nobody else, that the Ravenclaws don't have that kind of knowledge, like the professors and the adults around. Right. Just how much knowledge is in this school, like what the mental horsepower around this, and nothing gets done besides these three. That's where it's a stretch to me.
Well, and especially when you consider the difference between book 1 and book 2. Book 1, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody else knew about Fluffy. Nobody else knew about Nicholas Flamel. Nobody else knew about the Sorcerer's Stone.
Besides the teachers that knew. Like they were a part
and they
of it.
knew, they were involved.
They were choosing not to help or say anything.
Right, but they shouldn't say anything to kids.
Right.
This book, all the kids knew. Everybody knew the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Everybody knew, the Heir of Slytherin. Everybody knew this. Nobody else is figuring anything else out.
Yeah. There's too many people that should be thinking about this.
This is my
and
big
I get
concern
that Harry
with this book.
is the big
one of my big
suspect
concerns.
or whatever, but in the 50 years, like I get not being able to find the chamber. Like that
makes sense. I'm okay
fine
with that.
But like once you get all this evidence over and over, like there's not a Gorgon walking around. Medusa's not walking. Like it's
right.
just so limited. I mean,
right.
You can. there's a whole list of creatures that it could be, but no one has an idea, like at all. Like I don't know. It's
right.
It's tough.
All right. So I feel like Draco Malfoy did more in this book than in the first one, but I feel like we missed an opportunity earlier in the book to make some connections between Draco wandering Borgin and Burks and what he uses in book 6.
Mm-hmm. There were definitely a lot of call outs.
There was a lot. The Hand of Glory, that's in book 6.
Mm-hmm.
The necklace was listed in this book.
Yep.
And
the Vanishing Cabinet.
So when I first read book 6, I realize I'm jumping.
Mm-hmm.
It's unrestricted.
That's
I can talk about it.
Yeah. And this is where it ties to.
So let me start over. So when book 6 was about to be published, J.K. Rowling had a website. It was like the precursor to Pottermore, and it was like her desk, and you could click on different things, and you'd get different aspects. And one of the things was her only hint about the book was that. No, I guess this was book 7. The hint about book 7 was that it was related to book 2. There was something from I guess it would be book 6 because he learns about the Horcruxes in book 6, right? So that there was a connection to book 2. Mm-hmm. And so I reread book 2 thinking, okay, I see nothing.
So you're picking out all those things.
What could it possibly be? And then you learn that it's the diary.
Right.
That the diary is one of the Horcruxes, and that's really the connection. But looking at this, and what I didn't realize until as I'm sitting here talking to you right now, that another connection to book 2 is all the things Draco does to try and attack Dumbledore.
Right, yeah.
It's all of it is right here.
Right, yeah, because this is the only other time until Well, yeah, no, even then, this is the only time we ever see in Borgenberg. So this is the only, like, hey, here's a big collection of dark items.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really good sandbox for her to just leave a lot of items in
Mm-hmm.
that it's one of those, it's pretty easy to pull those back. It's one of, you just put a lot of nouns out there.
Yep.
And then when you pull them back, it makes it look like you had this all planned out. And I'm sure some of them she was like, okay, well, this probably does this, and I'll figure out a way to use that later
Right.
on. But it is one of those.
Like the vanishing cabinet having a backup cabinet. She didn't know that, I bet.
Yeah, no. And we don't hear about the other vanishing cabinet until book 5 when
Right. The room of requirement.
Yeah, which I was trying to think which Slytherin it was that gets put into it. No, I'm thinking Mulciber. It's McDougal? No, that's one of those names from the Sorting Hat that we didn't get.
Graham Montague.
Montague, yeah.
Thank you, Google.
And that's in book 5 that the twins shove Montague in there and he gets trapped in between it. That's the point where she starts looking back. Hey, where can I start picking things that I've mentioned before but haven't used? I like it
Right.
a lot, but definitely not all of them were like seeds. Or they're seeds, but they're not plants, if that makes sense.
Yes, and she just decided to use them then, which
Yeah,
I was
which is
fine
good,
with. I
which is
liked
good.
that.
Yeah.
I just feel like I missed it
Okay.
because, by the time I've reread the series and I get to book 6, I'm not thinking about the little minute details of book 2.
Right. Which everyone was pretty obviously not all that in love with book 2 at
Right.
that point.
I never
especially.
skipped it, but I was very much I'm going to blitz through it as quickly as possible so I can get to the good stuff.
Sure. And that's
So-
fair.
And
Yeah.
now it's nice knowing that, like, hey, there's some good stuff in here.
I think the only other time we get several dark items that aren't Horcruxes is when we're in old Tom Riddle memory stuff, and he's working for Borgin and Burke's. He goes to
Don't we see Malfoy go to Borgin and Burke's in book 6? Harry.
at
Harry
the
follows him.
beginning of book 6.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. What else you got?
So Riddle discusses Harry and Riddle's similarities. Is he responding subconsciously to the piece of his own soul that's within Harry, or are there actual commonalities that these two humans have? Not Tom Riddle and Tom Riddle, but Harry and Tom Riddle.
I wonder if it's a little bit of both. We both have dark hair. We're both orphans. We're both. I can't see any connection between those besides those two pieces, really, until you get to, oh, right, I have this whole possible Slytherin thing inside my head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the part of Voldemort. So I think it's more of that subconscious other, if you will. I don't know.
I think it's definitely both. I mean, there are some coincidental things that are
Mhm.
similar. Their backgrounds. Tom Riddle was an orphan. Tom Riddle made Harry an orphan. So that's kind of a connection that they'll always have,
Right.
that one of them chose for the other to have.
Right.
And the dark hair, just a coincidence. I
Right.
mean, that's sure,
It's an easy one.
whatever. But yeah, outside of that, the Parselmouth is clearly, I think, one of the biggest tells that there's a piece, that the Horcrux connection.
Right.
The other ones being maybe some of Harry's over cunningness, and I don't know. I'm trying to word. He has some ambition in there, but I think some of that's personal ambition, which again, I think a lot of people just have that normally. Like, there's nothing weird to that. Hey, I want to do a good job, and I don't mind getting credit for it. But he's such a
Right.
I don't want credit for credit's sake. I want credit to almost let me off the hook for other stuff. Usually, like, it's like I want to be known for like the stuff that I do, not because my parents got killed. Like,
Right.
so it's more of a proving himself to get this other monkey off his back kind of thing, where
It's less of
it's different than ambition.
Yeah.
So they have similarities, but I think the biggest similarities come from the Horcrux connection
agree.
itself. And I think that is what the Sorting Hat sees whenever he says, you would do well in Slytherin.
Okay. Last thought. Ready?
Yeah,
Last
let's
thought of
finish it
book
up.
2.
Woo!
The wardrobe Harry and Ron go to in the teacher's staff room
Mm-hmm.
to listen about Ginny's capture. Is that the same one the Boggart lives in book 3?
I think so. I think Lupin says that Flitwick found a Boggart in the staff room.
Because
So I would
they go in there.
I would assume it's this. Well, I think he moves it to the Defense Against the Dark Art. Or maybe you're right. Maybe they do.
I think they take like a little field trip.
Yeah, maybe they do go down there. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right. But yeah, sounds like it.
Okay. All right, Luke. Well, that wraps up.
Do we have any final thoughts on this book overall?
I don't hate it as much as I thought I would.
Okay.
Go me.
What was like the thing that stood out to you as being different on this read through, do you think?
Well, okay, so book 1, slowing down on book 1, I found detrimental to enjoying book
Mhm.
1. When we finished book 1, I was like, oh my God, if I end up feeling like this about every Harry Potter book, I'm never going to read Harry Potter
Yeah,
again.
no, it definitely it seemed like it shook you to your Harry Potter loving foundation.
It was really bad. Like, I was feeling guilty about how frustrating
and critical you felt of it.
Yes, especially because you go so slow.
Uh-huh.
I am a speed reader. I can blitz through a book in, a book like this, 200, 300 pages. I can do this in 4 hours, 5 hours if I sit and really want to get it all done.
Right.
And taking it slow made me see the flaws. This time through, reading my least favorite Harry Potter book, and I don't think that's going to change. I think
And it's not like it's a bad book.
Oh, well, my least favorite Harry Potter book is still better than millions and millions and millions of other books I've read. So I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just something has to be last. And it's always been this one. I don't really foresee that changing because I do see some big flaws with like the whole Lucius Malfoy. How did he know about the diary? At what point did he plot? How did Dobby fit in? It still bothers me. It's always going to bother me. But this book is so much funnier. It's just funny. I laughed a lot, and Ron was funny, and McGonagall was funny.
The twins again.
Harry and the dry, like, with the dueling club with Lockhart when he's like, just do what I do. What, drop my wand? Like, it's just more humorous. I love that Hagrid wasn't like
the only plot
doofus
driver
of the. Yeah. I like that he just got to be the Hagrid that we all know and love. I hated myself for hating Hagrid last book, and now I'm like, oh, thank God, it was just the book. It wasn't me. So like, there's so many redeeming things. Slowing this down and having to be more analytical made me really look for the things that were good, which was an interesting twist from reading the first one. So I'm hoping that I can keep that same sort of mentality of let's slow down and look for the things I really like extra rather than noticing more flaws.
I think that might just be a function of we've gotten more used to reading it this way a bit. It's just that first one, there were definitely some issues with book one slowing down like that. I think we've just mentally gotten more used to forcing ourselves to be okay with this. Well, and
I also think this was
because I agree it's tough.
This was also written better for that because really, like, the plants for the plot were all the way back in chapter 4 of Flourish and Blots. You can trace it from chapter 4. The plot of the first book didn't start till chapter 10 or 11. It was halfway through the book.
There was like a slight mention of a small package, but it did nothing to move anything. Like it was not a part of the story at all. It was so world building, and I love the world building stuff. I do too.
By the time we got to the plot, I didn't care about the plot because I wanted more world building.
You want to just,
hey, for so long.
Here's Harry at school and everything. It's just fun and cool stuff.
Whereas in book 2, and I like that it was darker and that it was everybody. Everybody had a bad year. Everybody was nervous. Right. It wasn't just these three having this little side adventure and the world was oblivious to it. It definitely felt, you could feel the weight of it on all the people.
Yeah, I agree.
Not just the people we were supposed to care about. So I liked those things a lot better. I do think the plot holes at the beginning will always be an issue for me. And I feel like this book does take the same arc as the first one. You know, good, happy beginning. We build up to a meeting with big bad guy at the end.
Defeat bad guy.
And the same. Big bad guy, the memory of the bad guy, whatever. But at the end of the day, everybody's happy and we go home for the summer and everything is good. So that's always sat with me. I like that later on coming up, we'll have more of twists on that. Yeah,
I don't know if I feel too differently about this book. On this read through, I do believe that it is more conducive to go station to station, reading it chapter by chapter. I really just enjoy how much better her writing has gotten between these two books. The using Hagrid over and over in book 1 as the only mistaken plot driver was irksome. It was painful, and the characters suffered for it, which is unfortunate because he is such a good character. I like how the intricacies of this plot were constant throughout. Like there was a plot point almost in every chapter that wasn't like a big, hey, that's a thing. It's like there are a lot more subtle things. Like, oh, Ginny is acting funny. She needs a pepper up potion, but she didn't have a cold. Like it's throughout the entire book. And there's a lot more interesting dark elements, like you said. And it is kind of creepy throughout. And I don't know. I definitely enjoy this book more than I think most people do. But I definitely like other books more still.
Oh yeah.
And I can't wait to get to those as well. So here we are. We finished the shortest 2 books. It only took us a year to finish books 1 and 2. Almost exactly a year, right?
Almost exactly. So we've got this episode Join us next week when we do our end of book spectacular with everybody. And then we have our big movie extravaganza.
Definitely.
We'll take a little break after that and come back with book 3 in the new year. Woo.
We made it, though. We made it.
2 down. And really, if you look at the length of the other ones, really, this was 1. This was basically the length of all the rest of them. These 2 together. Book 3 will be shortish.
Yeah, it's only 5. It's 22 chapters.
We can do it.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Great. Ready?
Yeah. Go ahead and...
So, Chamber of Secrets was a total of 341 pages. Okay. That's 32 pages longer than book 1. And it is 8.32% of the entire series.
Okay, so at the end of book 2, what percentage through the series are we?
15.86. Not quite 16% of the series. To give you an idea, we'll be about 25% of the series once we finish book 3.
Okay, that sounds about right, yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, that wraps us up. Where can they find us on social media?
Well, lots of places, so please come looking. We are available.
Look for us. We're looking for you.
Yeah, we are. So we are available. You can email us at thepodcastthatmustnotbenamed@gmail.com. We are on Twitter at NotNamedPodcast. We have a plethora of episodes and shows on our website, thepodcastthat.com.
Join our Facebook group. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/notnamedpodcast, I think is what it is. Or maybe
probably.
You can search for the show. We'll pop up.
Search for the podcast that must not be named. We're around.
Yep. And subscribe and rate us on iTunes. Leave a comment there. Tell your friends. Look us up on YouTube. Rate and subscribe and comment on there as well. We will read them. And if we like it, we'll read it on the air as well.
Join us next week for our End of Book Spectacular,
where we invite back all of our Harry Potter team to celebrate finishing book 2. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.